There's a rock along the Columbia River. Lewis and Clark named it Beacon Rock. And way up there on the side of that rock, there is today a man. To reach him, we hiked nearly 900 feet to the top and rappelled 200 feet down to a rocky ledge. Jim Opdycke finds solitude here.
I have been here solid for 35 years. I'm out here almost every day. I think I'm totally normal, but people laugh at that.
Jim is a climber, but not your average every once in a while kind of climber.
Grabbed a rock, and the rock came off of my hand.
He's wiry, fit, and he's been summiting Beacon Rock longer than he can even remember.
That's a picture of me, almost a year old, probably spring of 45 or fall of 44. That's my mom and my dad. That was my first climb here with aid. You know, they carried me up.
Jim is actually carrying on a long climbing tradition at Beacon.
Hi, good to see you out here finally. I hear you've been having some good epics.
People have struggled to find ways up this towering basalt rock as far back as 1901, but today climbers challenge themselves on vertical trails or routes. Some easy, some extremely hard. And Jim's contributions to Beacon's history are the dozens of new routes he's added here, including some that can take years to master.
Okay. Try that again.
Yeah, you put your foot right here. Okay, let's probably come down here. You see that tree in the crack up there? That was the first one I put up. I put up probably at least 20 or more. And, you know, I figure at least maybe 4,000 feet of stuff. Young warriors, hidden treats, uprising. I named it Little Wing because of Jimi Hendrix song. But I know there's some more up there. Oh, Blue Jay Way. There's a lot of bird names out here. Ground Zero, Summer Days, Flying Dutchman, Psychic Wound, Jim and Mike's Bogus Adventure. Oh, I got another route, Lethal Ejection, because if you fall, you're pretty much toast.
Jim can come off as a devil-may-care climbing bum, but he's been married, he's had kids, and he's worked much of his life.
All right.
Still, it's climbing that defines him.
Okay.
And he makes climbing Beacon, one of the toughest and highest big wall climbs in the Northwest, look relatively easy.
And every pitch out here is unique. We have almost every kind of problem you can find in climbing on this rock, and that's why it's so good, and that's why it produces world-class climbers always.
Now, what might look like a big hunk of rock to a non-climber is to Jim a palette of small nubs and ridges that he uses to pull himself up, one precision step, one arduous finger pull at a time.
This place, there's hand jams, feet, finger jams, awkward jams. I'm climbing!
Climbing here is like playing chess.
Okay.
It's really hard to master.
Climbing!
And the moves you're seeing Jim pull off,
Nice view.
they're happening hundreds of feet above the ground.
Woohoo!
So-called traditional climbing, or trad climbing like this, is not for the weak-hearted. Traditional climbers like Jim approach the rock like a raw mountain and bring all of their own gear. Jim carries a quiver of tools that he wedges, jams, and shoves temporarily into cracks and crevices in the rock.
Bummer.
He clips his rope into these for protection, but this so-called protection is really just an emergency fail-safe, and it's only as safe as the person who puts it in.
It's that way, or that way. And they'll lock in, so you don't want them to pull outward, but down like that. Hopefully I don't have to use it. Oh yeah, perfect piece.
The climber that follows then pulls out all the gear, leaving the mountain as he found it.
Only other place I'd rather be is Yosemite.
It's this ballet between climber and partner, rock and gear, that Jim says makes climbing here far more than just a sport.
You know, golf is a sport. This is life by the fingertips. Climbing! People who are climbing like we do here at Beacon Rock, traditional technical rock climbing, where you're climbing and you're putting in the gear, it's an art form. It's a creative art form. And you put in the gear and you put runners so that everything runs smooth. You ever been in that space where you're in the zone and you could just, time stops? If you're not living on the edge, you're taking up too much space.
With traditional climbing, any mistake made 500 feet above the ground can be a serious one. And accidents have happened. Before the climb, Jim stopped by a memorial that honors a young climber who died from a fall in 2011.
We had our first climbing death in 110 years.
Jim was there the day it happened.
His name was Nate. It was a shame to lose him. He was just the kind of guy that this place attracts, and yeah, he could have been okay.
It's the kind of thing that would make anyone stop climbing. And Jim did too, for a while.
En belay!
But in the end, he couldn't stay away from a place he loved.
Just by the thousands of hours he's put out here, he could be mayor of Beacon Rock or the godfather of Beacon Rock.
And Jim would be a person that you could say is eccentric. What he likes, he really loves, and what he really loves is climbing.
Okay, climbing. I mean, it builds character. I've heard that before, but it really does, and it builds characters. You know, most climbers are real characters, you know. It's that individual person that's in charge of their own ship, you know, and runs their own life and makes their own decisions. Those are the guys that become real climbers. Nice.
At Beacon, Jim found common bond in a group of close-knit locals that have shaped a laid-back, almost hippie climbing culture here.
We're all intimately involved with this rock. This is like, I don't know, it's our soul, man. It's what we are and who we are, and this is where we express ourselves, you know? Rock's getting warm, isn't it? And basically, climbing is just two guys going out, scaring themselves to death, taking turns. You know?
Whether that makes sense or not, it's that feeling that keeps Jim coming back.
People here don't understand what a beautiful place we have here. This gorge is very, very unique, but I never get tired of coming here. It just fills my soul, man. Excellent, excellent day.
You'd think after so many years that it might get old.
Good climb.
But when Jim topped out on the forested dome of Beacon, again, he wore the same look of utter satisfaction that he's worn for the last 35 years.
It doesn't get boring. If you're climbing and it's boring, you're really not climbing. And out here, you can always have an adventure, you know. You're never the same person after an adventure. And I've just had 67 years of adventure.
All right, thanks, man.
Oh, God, dude. You guys are awesome.
Yeah, good. Excellent.
Whew.